Have you been diagnosed as being neurodivergent or having autism, or do you experience yourself as being brutally honest, loving the truth, and perhaps being deeply dysregulated sometimes when you're dealing with others? My name is Heather Feather. I am the owner of Rare Bird Medicine, and today's topic is autistic rare bird. I realized that I had autism a couple of years ago. I'm 50, so maybe around the age of 48, something caused me to find some page that had a quiz. I took the quiz and it was like, it's 100% likely you're autistic. And then I took every quiz available. I mean, this is common for people with autism, that when they go to explore something, they deep dive into it. And so then I took every test that they had. They had a 200 question test, and it said 154 out of 200, 100% likelihood to be autistic. I took it later in a deeply dysregulated state. It was 174 of 200. All this to say, I started doing a deep dive on YouTube. There's a Mom on the Spectrum, that autistic guy, 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐢𝐛𝐞. There's several different wonderful people that I started watching, which is another common autistic or neurodivergent trait, that when you want to understand something and it interests you, that it becomes like a special interest and you get consumed by it. And so I, of course, was consumed by the topic, as is very common for those pre-being diagnosed. And everything I was seeing was so validating. It was like, oh, I feel seen by these people that are explaining themselves. It's like they're describing me, And so I recently got a neurodivergent therapist here, a specialist that sees mostly neurodivergent part of the community. And out of 42 questions, I had 40. And he said out of all of the clients he's ever had, I had the highest score for autism. And so being neurodivergent, it's funny, it's kind of, when I got summoned to the shamanic path by Lightwalker, I had this like awareness that for me, shaman meant someone from South America. It meant elder. It was an older person, and Lightwalker, the person that started initially training me regarding shamanic practices globally, let me know that shamanism is present for all cultures globally. And there is a thread of universality in the practices globally. And, but I had this idea of what it meant. In my experience, as I let people know I have autism, I can see it when they receive that information. They have an idea of what I just said. Now, I think it was like in 2010, they stopped using the word retarded to mean somebody that has a mental challenge. That used to be a medical term. And so like this year I was at the mountain just laughing at how my relationships have not worked. I was like, oh my God, I've been retarded the whole time. You know what I mean? I was retarded the whole time. Maybe that's why my relationships don't work. And it's been comforting this year to come out of a space of seeking partner. I don't seek partner. I invite and invoke my divine masculine. And when it's time for him to enter, he will. And so that's been a grace to kind of get balanced in that. But it's like, I was like, oh my God. It's like, and people don't want to hear that. You know what I mean? It's like, because it is a derogatory term. But as somebody born in 1975, if you grew up in the 80s, people called their friends and family and everybody retarded. And they did mean it kind of as a slam. Oh, burn. But they didn't mean it as in you're mentally slow, or I'm making fun of people that are. They just meant it as like, you're not as quick as I am. It was kind of like this. It wasn't as much of a burn as it sounds like in the modern age, if you will. So I don't know. I was laughing at myself. I was like, oh, maybe that's the problem. But the reality is I don't think like others. People that are neurodivergent are 2 to 3 times more likely to be sexually assaulted. They're 3 to 4 times more likely in their childhood to be sexually assaulted. Some studies say they're as much as 10 times more likely. My experience, too, of neurodivergence is that you tend to, because you love the truth and because you are blatantly, brutally honest with others. I love for people to be brutally honest with me, and I'm going to be brutally honest with you. And because of that, you can seem rude, because you will tell people, oh, no, I didn't like that poem you wrote that you just read to me. You're like, what? You'll say stuff that it's like, oh my God, that's not the socially appropriate thing to say. You're supposed to say you like it. But when you're neurodivergent, you don't find it kind to lie. So you tell the truth, and you tend to want the truth. But that can cause you to seem socially inappropriate. You also seem kind of punk rock in the sense that you don't acknowledge authority. And I've had a lot of difficulties with jobs If there's a lot of ego in the leadership, if the leadership feels like they are special because of their title, they tend to, anyone with a lot of ego in leadership has always had issue with me. And it always flushes up in the field. And it's because I don't respect their authority. And it's because there is no authority present in the room. We are all shoulder to shoulder kin. We may have different jobs and different titles as we do them, but we are eternal. I believe we infinitely incarnate. We get to be all of the things. And just because you're a supervisor or a CEO, you're no farther above the janitor. And I treat the CEO the same as I do the janitor, but it's like, when people want their authority acknowledged, I often do not. Because you are not better or more powerful than me because you hold title. I don't care. I don't care about fame. I don't care about money. I don't care about your prestige. I don't care about your titles. And I do experience in a lot of different ways, I think, I forget that I have a face. I do not think of others thinking of me. I do not think of people being aware of me when I'm in a room. I forget that I exist and I'm here. I'm just like, kind of in my own bubble of consciousness. And I take a lot of photos of myself to be like, look, you're in a body. You have a face. You're taking a face around, Heather. You know what I mean? Look at your face going places. But I don't go places and assume that people see me, that they know me, that they remember me, that if you met me, you remember me. I don't assume that you've noticed me. I don't assume that you're thinking of me. Some of the wildest thoughts I've received at Earth School is when people are like, you know, there are those that may think of you throughout your life, or there are those that in this moment may love you. And it's like, what? I don't think of others thinking of me or loving me. And when I think of others, I don't think of them, I find, in conventional ways. I'm usually trying to understand interactions. I don't understand this interaction. People have historically, and it's common with people that are neurodivergent, behaved in a bully-like kind of way with me. People get real reactive with me, and I'm not doing anything. Like I'm the gentlest little loving lamb, but I am very honest about my gifts and my truth, which makes me seem bombastic or, you know, overly self-confident or whatever that is. And so I can be misconstrued as being arrogant or having a lot of ego, or if, you know, whatever the ego denies, it projects. So if somebody's very egotistical and they see me and I get on video and I'm like, I'm really good at this because it's my truth, then they're going to project onto me that I'm just like a narcissistic egomaniac and, you know, I'm so into what I look like because I take pictures of myself, or I'm so into. But a neurodivergent person does not think like you. If you're a neurodivergent, if you are autistic, I think it's really important to know it is not an excuse for you to believe that you are different from the rest of your kin in a way that deserves more empathy or more support or more understanding from everybody. I watch humanity do this a lot. They use all kinds of labels to be like, I deserve more empathy than the rest of the all. And it is very difficult to be a Heather Feather. Part of neurodivergence is sensory overload. And so when I'm in a room, I'm not just taking in the room. I'm taking in everyone, the way they feel, their body language, the way they're acting. Like everything I'm looking at is the lighting, the sounds. The neurodivergent people tend to have a much smaller filter. They often have gut microbiome issues. There are all these different components of it that can be standard for their system. So they're not digesting well and they're like overwhelmed by their environment. But it's still my job to self-regulate, and I never assume I could be sitting in a room with somebody that was in a war and they have complex PTSD, which is a lot of similar type of energy to what it means to be neurodivergent in my body. So I'm not assuming just because I'm neurodivergent, it's way harder for me and everyone should be more empathetic towards me and please treat me special. No, you know, we are all equal. We've all had our traumas. I have no doubt that many people are high anxious and dysregulated, just like a neurodivergent person. I'm not special for being that way. And I don't want to lie to myself this day. You can go to ASPIE quiz, ASPIE quiz, and take the quizzes on there. Neurodivergent people are honest, and so you will be if you are. And if it says it's likely you have it, you may want to go get an official diagnosis. I think 5 to 15% of the population is neurodivergent. They just don't want us to know that because you tend to disengage systems that they want you to be plugged into. You can go to rarebird.medicine.com and click on the classes link. Heather will autistically be teaching you a class this August. It's called the Lionsgate Portal. please join us. Amun.